What's going on? Welcome to another live edition of Real Fans Real Talk. Feels good to be back, man. Some champions in the air. WrestleMania went down, a couple of big wins, for you wrestling fans out there. And we got a very big game that's about to go down tonight. But before we get into all of that, let me introduce my co-host, my brother Eric Sanchez, aka Legend in Two Games. What's going on, man?
What's really good, bro? You already know we celebrating champions tonight. We got the women's champion. The men's championship goes down in about 2 hours, and we're about a week away from NBA playoffs. So it's title time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Big shout out to Ron Charles. I see you, man. First in the comments. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody that's in the comments. I see the comments is coming in right now. And we're gonna jump right into it. I guess the biggest story of the year, women's college basketball, and what they've done this season. An incredible year for women's college basketball, led by some really big stars, a couple of which will be heading into the WNBA draft in a couple of months. A couple who will be returning to school and trying to go for that coveted NCAA championship next year. But it is time to congratulate the champions, South Carolina. Um, I didn't want to say the name because then I'm gonna have to say pause before I say the second half of that. So I'm just gonna say no Diddy, and we're gonna move on with the sale amicably. um, but South Carolina, after maybe one of the best starts in college basketball history by an individual player, namely Caitlin Clark, they were able to settle things down and win the national title. Congratulations to Dawn Staley because that's her third national championship. Eric, talk to me about the win and how dominant South Carolina has been this season.
I mean, first and foremost, like you said, we want to congratulate Dawn Staley and the job that her and those young ladies did, completing an undefeated season. It was also a full circle moment for them because they were upset by Iowa last year in the Elite Eight. So to come back, I don't want to call it the revenge tour, but to get back and beat Caitlin Clark in a national championship, I'm sure it was a very gratifying moment for them. Also, I want to applaud Dawn Staley for her post game comments, where she applauded all of the contributions of Caitlin Clark of shining light on the women's game and drawing the attention that it did for the tournament. But for Dawn Staley, I mean, now we love to talk legacy. It's one of the things that we always circle back to. Now we're talking real legacy now because aside from Gino with UConn, aside from Pat Summitt with Tennessee, I think Kim Mulkey's the only other female coach with 3 championships with Dawn Staley. So now that already puts you on a quote unquote Mount Rushmore. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody in the comment section. I think those are the only 4 with 3+ championships. So now you're talking about Dawn Staley's legacy as an all-time great women's head coach.
Yeah, you gotta love it. To bounce back to what they did this season, to run the table, all the way through the NCAA championship, to stop one of the hottest runs that we've seen, with Caitlin Clark and everything that she's done this season, breaking so many records. To we have to give Dawn Staley her flowers because we saw in the LSU game where when Angel Reese got hurt, they didn't change the game plan on the defensive side of the basketball or on the offensive side of the basketball much really either. And we saw what happened there. But in this situation, Dawn Staley, she said, "All right, Caitlin, we ain't about to let you put up 45 on us
Right.
tonight, and send us back home." So they changed things up through different looks at her. And she scored like she scored because you're not stopping the greats like that. But they were able to contain everything else that went on in the game, to overcome a great performance by Caitlin Clark, to win this national championship. You know, you gotta love it. We spoke a week ago about the star power and why people weren't talking about South Carolina the way they should have been talking about Carolina, because the reality was, as a team, they probably had the best chance of winning the national championship game which they ultimately did. But the stars tend to overshadow great teams sometimes, especially when the biggest star on South Carolina is Don Staley. You
And
know,
and but that, you know what? In this case, I don't think that's a bad thing, because for the sport, this is what women's basketball needed. They needed the stars to kind of draw us in and get us to pay attention, and then
yes,
ultimately the best team handled their business. Being undefeated up until this point wasn't going to get enough attention because other teams had done it. There were UConn women teams that had gone undefeated as well before, so that wasn't going to be enough of a storyline. You needed the names. You needed obviously Caitlin Clark. You needed Angel Reese. You needed Paige Buckers. You needed Juju Watkins. You needed those young ladies to kind of carry it to this point and then allow the best team to show off when it mattered most. So I think it worked out perfectly for South Carolina. On a casual level, yeah, they probably didn't get enough press, but I think overall, those within the know and those that covered the game knew how good this team was, and it was a reason why they were undefeated throughout the season.
yeah. Now I want to go back to the Final Four because I see Mike. Shout out to Mike Merrill. I see he has a question up here that I actually wanted to talk to you about. We're gonna start with this one, and then I'm gonna come back around. Let's talk about UConn versus Iowa. Was that a bad call at the end or the right call? Uh it's okay. So it's for me, it's tough because that game was such an amazing game, and I believe I texted you during that game
Yeah.
as well, Eric. It was a great game. So you hate to see it come down to a call like that, as opposed to them being able to at least get the shot up, and then we see where it goes from there. I mean, honestly, if I watch it 1,000 times, 500 times, I might say it was the right call, and 500 times I might say it was a bad call. But again, I do know that the way I felt about the situation was it sucks to have a game that good end in that manner.
It's a terrible call, and it's for the reason that you just stated. If I've got to watch it back, and then over the course of 1,000 watches, I'm still split on it, it's a bad call. In that moment, the play is happening so quick, and it to me, it's got to be so blatant that you would even blow the whistle. And it wasn't blatant enough, and it wasn't enough of interference or deterrent on the play. So I think you got to let it play out, and you ultimately, I mean, you hear from others who played the game at the highest level in their reaction. You got to allow the players to determine the outcome. You can't blow the whistle in that part at that part of the game and be like the most influential aspect of the game now. Where as great as that game was, shout out to Mike Merrill, we're talking about this now. You know, we're talking about this, and that is going to be one of the defining moments of this Final Four, whether we like it or not, because we're going to always circle back to, hey, could that ending have been different if they allowed the players to just play it out?
Yeah. Again, shout out to Kyrie Thompson. Congrats to South Carolina and Dawn Staley on winning the 2024 title, Dawn's third title. And I'm just gonna go to his second comment here. What does a third title mean for Dawn Staley's legacy? Eric, you talked about it a little bit, but it puts her in a small crop of the creme de la creme.
Hmm.
Talking about the best college basketball coaches to do it. She's on the short list. It's not easy to get one national
Hmm.
championship. Certainly even harder to get two, but to get three is damn near impossible. So you have to put her on that conversation. I think she may have etched her spot on the Mount Rushmore of college basketball coaches with this most recent win.
I think so, and you know, it's always tough in college to win multiple championships because there's always a new incoming class, and you got to start the motivation process all over, and you got to figure out a way to get these girls ready for that next stage. But like you said, to put her in the conversation with Gino, with Pat Summit, Kim Mulkey, it ain't. It's only a handful that have more than that have at least three, and so she's already there at this point. They got a good team. Over the last few years, they had only lost one game over the last 2 years. So obviously, they on the cusp of building something special on top of now winning the national championship, and they're going to get a lot of their team back next year. So there's still a lot of runway in front of Dawn Staley now to add on to that legacy. And I think again, Mount Rushmore is a legitimate conversation at this point.
Yeah. Let me go to shout out to Justin Frizion. Hope I'm saying that right. Caitlin Clark, Iowa falls short in back-to-back title games. Would a win have solidified her case as the GOAT? No, it would not have solidified her case as the GOAT. Um, I mean, we talked about, I think, about top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about that. I think that's where it would have stopped at. Just because there's a couple of uh college basketball players that have multiple national championship games. So her getting one, even though she did break a lot of the records, I can't. I wouldn't give her GOAT status had she won. Definitely can't give it to her now that she lost it again back to back times. But no, I don't think she was the GOAT, win, lose, or draw.
Yeah, I don't think it makes her the GOAT. As I mentioned before, I think it does help her case because when you compare her to some of the other GOATs that we've talked about, they played at power programs that had a lot of help and had other marquee players on it. Caitlin Clark's going to be the only one from Iowa that reaches the next level. So when we look back on it, we're going to say it's pretty amazing that she took this team to back-to-back championship appearances. So one could have helped, but I don't think one would have been enough to like pass a Diana Taurasi or Brianna Stewart. Brianna Stewart, I think, won 4 straight years at UConn.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think one from Caitlin Clark is ever going to surpass winning 4 straight during a college career. So it probably would have put her in that conversation, as you mentioned, top 5, top 6, top. I think top 7 is a fair argument for Caitlin Clark to be number 1 overall. No, because we've named so many other great players. I think that were better than Caitlin Clark.
Shout out to Will Gordon. I feel
Shout
like
out.
Will's his relationship with Caitlin Clark is similar to Skip Bayless and LeBron James. Because I don't know, Will, what's going on with you? Clark and Edie will both players of the year will be exposed in their respective leagues. Clark is too fragile emotionally and will not score at the clip she did in college. And wow, Edie is unskilled. You damn, Will, like that's kind of harsh. I wouldn't go that far. First of all, Caitlin Clark is a shooter. Um, so I think that's gonna benefit her a lot in the WNBA. Now, that's not to say she's just gonna go up in there and straight dominate.
No,
You know what I mean? But everybody is coming in and they gotta get their whippings. Everybody comes in from in in their first year or two, and you're gonna get beaten up around the league. You know what I'm saying? So I think that ultimately she'll be okay. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of the stars of WNBA came in and they didn't just come in like they were playing in college and they just went in and straight dominated. You know what I'm saying? They had to kind of build up to become those type of players. So I think she'll be fine in the long run. On the other side of that, I think he'll be good. I mean, seven was he 7 foot
7'4",
7'4"? You know what I'm saying? Now I don't think he's
7'3", something like that. But
as skilled as Wimby is.
no.
But again, at that height, he can definitely do some things. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't player of the year for no reason.
I think Caitlin Clark is going to be just fine. Too often we make a big deal about her ability to shoot and score. We don't talk about how great she is as a passer and the vision she has. I mean, she led the nation in assists for a reason. So that passing ability isn't going to diminish now that she takes a step up, especially now that her teammates are going to be more skilled than what she currently was playing with at Iowa. So I think that part of her game will be the same. In terms of her scoring ability, it will really be dictated by how green of a light she gets. Because at Iowa, when you're the person, as soon as you cross half court, whatever shot you want is what you're going to take. At the next level, when it's tougher competition, when you have better teammates, she's probably going to have to be a little bit more under control with the shot selection. And that's going to be the biggest, I think, meter or gauge of like how good she can be at the next level. Because if she's not a volume shooter, if she gets to the next level and she's only taking 12 shots a game, 15 shots a game, is she going to be effective enough? Is she going to be efficient enough to put up good scoring numbers? But I think her passing ability is going to be just fine at the next level. And I also think, we got to remember Caitlin Clark, 4 years at Iowa, she's played against a lot of these pros before. She's played with Team USA. She's been at the summer get-togethers. So I don't think she's going to be intimidated by the women that she's going up against now. She will have some rookie bumps, as you mentioned, because all rookies do. But in terms of like her being comfortable with the competition, these are women that she's probably played against the last 2 years anyway, as she prepared for this next step and as she worked out with Team USA. So I think she'll be fine. Edie's going to be a little tougher because the game is a lot faster at the next level. he's gonna get exposed in some areas at the next level because he is very slow. He's very methodical, and teams ain't gonna run their offense through him. That's just not the modern NBA. So that part of his game is gonna struggle. He's gonna have to really be a defensive force, similar to like a Rudy Gobert, who then gets his points cleaning up, the glass. But if he's not athletic enough to get up and down the court, he won't see a lot of minutes.
Yeah. Let me put because no footwork, no post moves, brings the ball low all the time and has weak hands. He's he's, he's an intramural Roy Hibbert, a true indictment of where college basketball is. Well, I mean that's on the men's side because the woman is kicking butt right now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that. I mean, listen, even if I mean, Roy Hibbert was in the league for what about 9, 10 years, right?
Solid career. It
Right.
didn't, it didn't, it didn't live up to the hype because when he came out of Georgetown, he was a high first round pick, but a solid career.
Yeah, listen, if he has a career like Roy Hibbert, that's great because most
Yeah,
guys ain't getting that.
yeah,
So
that's a fact.
you can't be mad at him for that. Oh, let me see. I see all the football comments coming in. We're gonna get to those a little bit later when we talk about that Bills trade. But I just
Mm-hmm.
want to get through all of this college basketball stuff. Scoop Hoop, shout out to Scoop Hoop. I got a question, and I hear people saying a lot of these players: Candace Parker, Cheryl Miller, Maya Moore, Stewie, Shamika Holslaw couldn't lead Iowa. My question is, how do we know if they couldn't? She can shoot and pass, but not a great handle or don't use the mid range. I think all the ladies I named are more talented than Clark. I hear Eric saying often them ladies went to big programs, but if they had to, I'm sure they could dominate. I'm sure they could as well. I mean, we're talking about I mean, most of these women up here are Hall of Famers.
Mm-hmm.
That we're talking about here, or future Hall of Famers, right? So yeah, of course, I think they could do the same thing. I mean, obviously, you have to see, but if we're basing this off of what they not only what they did in college, but also what they did at the pro level, then absolutely any one of these women could have done the same thing. First of all, I mean, she didn't win, so there's that. Cheryl Miller has national championships
Mm-hmm.
under her belt. Same time,
Well,
but look at
all those women listed.
Candace Parker still, yeah, they all
Yeah.
have them. So, if they could win, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I mentioned them going to big programs, that's not to diminish their skill set or say they couldn't lead Iowa. The greats are going to be the greats, no matter what. That's why they are the greats. Wherever they would have played, they would have figured it out. What I'm ultimately saying, though, is we don't give Caitlin Clark enough credit for what she's done with the lack of talent around her. All these women you mentioned, look at the rosters that they played with and look at the talent they had. And there were nights where they didn't have their best game, but ultimately the team that they were with was good enough to overcome that and win the games. Caitlin Clark, night in, night out, is expected to produce numbers. Caitlin Clark, night in, night out, has to lead her team in passing, in scoring, and be the focal point of everything they do offensively. So I'm not to say those other women couldn't do it, but at the same time, I don't think we should knock Caitlin Clark for not winning a championship. When you look at her second and third best player don't match up to what they had to face against LSU last year and what they had to face against South Carolina this year. So that's what I'm saying for Caitlin Clark's defense. She's still a great player. I wouldn't put her ahead of any of the women that you mentioned there, Scoop Hoop. So I agree with you from that point of view as well. But Caitlin Clark is still a great player. Like, let's not diminish what she's done just because she didn't win a championship. A lot of great players don't win championships.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go a little bit more in depth on the transition for Caitlin Clark. Shout out to Pooh. Pooh says Tarasi on Caitlin turning pro. Reality is coming. How difficult will her transition be to the WNBA? And was Diana low key hating or being 100? I don't think she was hating at all. I think she was keeping it 100. There is going to be a huge difference in the talent level that you're playing up against. Even when you're talking about you had to go through LSU, UConn, and then to try to win South Carolina. When you get to the WNBA level, I mean, pretty much everybody on the roster is gonna be beast mode in comparison to right now. We know, I would probably say 70%. I'm gonna put some respect on a couple of her teammates' name that could possibly make it into the WNBA. But 70% of Caitlin Clark's team is not making it to the WNBA. Okay, first of all, there's not even enough roster spots for everybody to make it. We say, and it's not just Iowa. It's all every LSU. Everybody's not making it to the WNBA from LSU. It's South Carolina. It's UConn. You know what I'm saying? It's every school. Like everybody is not gonna make it. USC. Yeah, Juju might make it, Angel Reese might make it, Caitlin might make it, Paige might make it, but not everybody is going to make it to the WNBA. When you get to the WNBA, and same thing respectively with the NBA, now you playing the best of the best of the best of the best. There is no, what I'm saying, no slacks on those rosters. So yeah, you are gonna have to step your game up because everybody is nice and everybody's bigger, stronger, and faster when you get to that level as well.
Yeah, shout out to Pooh. We always appreciate the questions and comments as well, Pooh. But I think that a little bit, it's a little bit of hating though. There's a little bit of the older guard saying, "Oh, ain't gonna be that easy." Because to me, first and foremost, that statement of reality is coming and it's gonna be tough at the next level. You can say that to any rookie in any sport.
Yeah.
Like if you take Caitlin Clark's name out of there and just blank slate that could apply to any rookie in any sport. So Diana Taurasi ain't saying nothing new that none of us have never heard or thought of. But the reason I say it's a little bit of hating is I've never heard Caitlin Clark say, "Oh, it's going to be easy when I get to the next level." Caitlin Clark has never made it or downplayed it like, "Oh, I'm just going to do this anywhere I go." Yeah. Caitlin Clark has shown a lot of respect for the teammates that she's played. I mean, teams that she's played against and anybody that's been on the court with her. And I think too often the media has tried to like, well, there's got to be some sort of drama. There's got to be some sort of issue. When, the situation happened with Angel Reese last year, she wasn't mad about it. She said, I understand it's cool. We trash talk. There's no big deal. But the media wanted to make it into something. The media tried to turn this game against South Carolina into like a revenge game for South Carolina. And they kept showing the clip of when she waved off the girl at the 3-point line last year. What they didn't show was that the girl went on and hit like 3 threes after that when Caitlin Clark wasn't guarding her. But they wanted to focus on that part of it to make it seem like, oh, that's stirring things up between them. I think Caitlin Clark has been very respectful of the game. I think the media has tried to turn her into like, some people make her a darling, some people have made her a villain, and then we have these split thoughts on her, like, oh, how should we feel about her? I've never once heard her say it's going to be easy when I get to the next level. So for Diana Taurasi to say, oh, there's a reality check coming, that goes for any rookie. That don't just go for Caitlin Clark.
Well, in the words of Batman, you either die the hero or you live long enough to be the villain.
Yeah,
and that's what it is, Shout out to let me go to I wanted to take Thomas Demp's question. Shout out to Thomas Demps. I know this might be his first time rocking with us because I don't think I've seen that name before. So big shout out to him. What kind of WNBA I guess player will Angel Reese be? And after the loss, thoughts on her at the press conference, ranting and crying. Well, first of all, I'm gonna put more respect on Angel Reese's name than that. Even though J. Cole kind of messed it up with his apology, so now I'm still kind of torn right now. But in regards to Angel Reese, though, there's a lot of emotion going through her right now because you have to realize what Angel Reese has dealt with from last year's NCAA tournament all the way to this year's NCAA tournament. When LSU won the championship, we actually had the first lady trying to invite Iowa to the White House.
Yep. Try to diminish the accomplishment.
Yeah, from the very jump, she was dealing with that. And then, like you said, Eric, when you have the media painting these storylines and you're painting Caitlin Clark as the good guy and Angel Reese as the bad guy, so she's dealing with a lot. You guys know there are a lot of idiots in the social media world who like to sit behind their computers and type some of the most hateful, vile things that you could possibly imagine. So she's dealing with all of that. And then on top of that, she's dealing with the loss, but not only is she dealing with the loss, she got hurt in the game. So she, is dealing with the fact that she's not able to do everything that she could have normally been doing out there on the court. And it was noticeable from the time when she twisted her ankle. She was like 6'7". at that point. Then I think she wound up missing like her next 7 shots in a row. So you could tell she was bothered. And then on top of that, I think she was entering the WNBA draft. So, this is your last hurrah. You're leaving your friends, all of the family. When you go to college and you live in them dorms and you start building those bonds, and then it's like, yo, it's over with. And you got to go to the next part of your life. It's a lot. It can be overwhelming. So no, you know what I'm saying? Let her she deserves the right to let her emotions out in whatever way possible. With the homie at the was that, I think I was on, I forget what it was, Archo or whatever the heck his name is. Akko, I
Yeah,
like
Sam,
pronounce his name.
Acho, yeah,
But that
former
was
linebacker in the league, yeah.
yeah, that was corny. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think she's gonna be great in the WNBA. Even being hurt, she still had 17 and 20 in that game they lost. So shout out to Angel Reese, man.
She's gonna be a solid pro. She still got to work on her offensive game a little bit, but defensively, I think she's sound. You see the passing ability already as well. She has vision for a big, but the offensive part of her game is gonna have to get a little more polished because right now she's very raw around the basket. She relies just on height and athleticism at this point, so she's gonna have to get a little bit of a touch on a 10-foot or 12-foot shot right there. But in terms of her crying and all that, I think Trip, you articulated great. There was a lot going on since the time they won last year and the way that she was portrayed and picked apart by the media. And it didn't matter what she did, she was picked apart for it. If she modeled, she was picked apart. If she tried to show her softer side as a woman, she was picked apart. If she showed the passion for the sport, she was picked apart. And let's not forget too, I know we've talked about it before, but we're not going to overlook it now. Certain athletes get pigeonholed certain ways purely based off of complexion, Trip, because when, to use a cross sport reference, when you got Baker Mayfield yelling and going crazy on the sideline, he's fiery, he's passionate. But when Russell Westbrook or Angel Reese do it, it's like they thugs, they bullies. You know what I'm saying? They bad for the game, they bad for the sport. And this is a young lady that's had to deal with that. And also, let's not forget, the crying is also part of realizing this is it. My college career is over. She made the decision to go pro shortly after that. So she knew this was going to be my last time with my teammates. They had an incredible 2 years together. And that wave of emotion came through. I'm not mad at her for it. I think Acho was completely off base for the comments he made. I think it's crazy that you got former athletes who can't understand the scrutiny that this young lady's facing. I know he played at the highest level, but he was never an impactful player the way Angel Reese has been for LSU. So maybe he just doesn't understand it in that way. But earlier this season, we literally had conversations on the show, Trip, where people was asking us in the comment section, can Angel Reese get right? What's going on? Why is she away from the team? And nobody once stopped and thought, like, man, there's a lot going on for a very young woman who's been thrust into the spotlight. Before their championship run last year, point out the person who was talking about Angel Reese. How many of y'all in the comment section who even knew who Angel Reese was before their tournament run last year? So in a span of 1 year, she's had to deal with a lot of pressure. I'm cool with the crying and the ranting. She'll be fine at the next level, but she does have to work on her offensive game.
Exactly. Shout out to Imane. What's going on? Hey fellas, yo, watching UConn versus Iowa. That Paige chick to me looked better overall. And people say before she got hurt, she was the better player. Listen, I told y'all last week what I call her. I call her Paige Buckets because that's all she does is put up buckets. I saw her in that game versus Iowa. She was doing her thing. I'm talking about from anywhere on the court she could score. She is definitely one of them ones. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Paige on the basketball court.
Yeah, Paige is phenomenal. Paige was probably going to be the face before she got hurt. She went to high school with Jalen Suggs. Her and Jalen Suggs actually were the male and female Gatorade Player of the Year, which is crazy. At the same high school, you had the male and female Gatorade Player of the Year. But Paige, I think, is more fundamentally sound too. Caitlin Clark is a phenomenal shooter, great passer, but you saw Paige is more of a defensive player as well, who has the offensive ability. So the sky's the limit for Paige, and next year is going to be crazy to see between her and Juju, who kind of takes the mantle as the queen of the sport.
Shout out to Pooh. Fellas, I want to give South Carolina's freshmen love. Man, they are impressive. I mean, this entire team, and we said, that this was a great team. We've spoken about them in the past. Again, obviously, the media loves their stories because quote unquote, you got to sell newspapers still. You know what I mean? But when we're talking about an overall team dominance to go. I mean, come on, they went undefeated and won a national championship game and stop someone who is going to go down in history as top 10, top 5 all time. Along the way, we gotta give them all their flowers, man. They did an amazing job, had a great run. Big shout out to South Carolina.
Phenomenal run for the freshmen. It's great experience right now. And as I mentioned, South Carolina ain't done. They're going to be returning majority of their team next year with a lot of experience, and they'll be looking to have another deep tournament run.
Shout out again to Imani. It's amazing how far women's hoops have come? Y'all been on a half hour and we still talking about women's hoop.
It has been.
We love it. Listen,
we do.
At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? The show is called Real Fans, Real Talk for a reason, because we are genuine sports fans. And if you are playing good at a particular sport that we like, we're gonna rock out with you. We're gonna support you. You know what I'm saying? No matter who it is, whether it's the men or the women, we're gonna support great basketball. We're both basketball fans. You know what I'm saying? So we want to see great basketball. And the ladies have showed up and showed out, and they have, as far as they have been taking the spotlight this past 2 seasons. They have taken the spotlight of college basketball, put it on them, which is great for women's basketball as a whole. It's going to be a huge boost for the WNBA moving forward, because now we have Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese that are going into this year's WNBA draft. That's a lot of star power between both of those two, and we liken this to kind of the Magic Bird rivalry that we saw in the 80s. And now you have a situation where these two are going to get to clash again in the professional level. So the storylines are going to be there. And then, you have the names that are going to come. You got the Pages. You have Juju, who's only a freshman right now, who may be possibly the biggest star out of all of these women. So you have to love it what the women are doing. Big shout out to all of the ladies. Congratulations to all of you.
Absolutely. And Amani, I want to take this opportunity as well to thank our supporters like Amani, like Pool, like Hoop Ball, Scoop, because even prior to the tournament, you guys were asking us questions about the women's game and kind of integrated it into the conversation. And since then, obviously, we've picked up more steam with it as well. We talked about the women of Troy. We've talked about the legacy of a lot of these women in the sport. You guys have been right there front and center requesting certain guests that we still working on. Trip ain't forget, we still trying to get them on the show. But this is it. We kind of had an idea it might happen too. I forgot. I can't remember the supporter who commented on a few weeks ago where he talked about the women's game comparison to the men's game. And I had made the statement, Trip, where I said the women's game had the star power. There wasn't one guy, there wasn't any one particular person on the men's side that we were so enamored with or so interested in seeing. Whereas on the women's side, all the names we continue to talk about, we knew we were going to keep watching as long as those teams were still active in the tournament. And that was the greatest thing that could have happened for the women's tournament, that we got the opportunity to see Caitlin Clark and Paige play in a Final Four game, that we got to see LSU and Iowa in a rematch in the Elite Eight game, Juju against UConn and Paige Buckers in the Elite Eight. It really played out perfectly for the women's tournament, that they got not only all the star power, but then also their best team in South Carolina that kept advancing. So it was the best of both worlds. We're going to get our best team to keep playing, as well as the star power of everybody matching up. It worked out beautifully for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go back. I'm going to go to Kyrie's comment. Who y'all got in the Purdue versus UConn game tonight? Is UConn considered a blue blood? How many titles do they have since 2000? The second part of that question, I believe we answered last week. Yes, they are. I'm going with UConn tonight. I think that they are the better team. I know, Ide is the player of the year, but again, I think it's going to come down to what we saw with South Carolina and Iowa, where South Carolina was the clear cut better team, with Iowa having the best player on the court.
Yeah, this is a really good matchup. We didn't really get the Cinderella to make it all the way to the end, but it's cool because we get the 2-time player of the year against the defending champs who are going for back-to-back. I do have UConn tonight winning. on a personal note as well, UConn has covered the spread in every game in the tournament. Hint, hint.
So you got multiple purposes then.
Yeah, multiple things going on. Hint, hint. Last time I checked, they were favored by 6.5. But UConn is a blue blood. Since 2000, I believe they got 5 championships. Or it might be Rip Hamilton's. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know Will would know. Rip was that 99 or 2000 when Rip was there. But when they won that first one. But either way, they've got a couple championships since 2000. They are a blue blood because the consistent Final Four appearances, deep playoff push, deep tournament pushes. So they're a blue blood, no matter how you want to slice it. I mean, if we're going to say Kentucky's a blue blood and Kentucky has only won 1 championship in the last 12 years, right? Coach Cal, I know we're going to get to Coach Cal in a second. They've only won 1 in the last 12, and UConn has had multiple in the last 12. They got to be a blue blood.
Yeah. I'm going to get this one last question from Hoopball Scoop, and then we're going to switch over to the professionals. And again, this is y'all, not us. This is Hoopball Scoop asking this question, so we're going to answer this because it's Hoopball Scoop. If anybody else, I might have skipped it, but since Hoopball Scoop, we're going to answer it.
Yeah.
All right. Bronny James declares for the draft while weighing transfer options. Should Bronny James stay in school or go pro? I mean, I think if he wants to go pro and he feels like he can get drafted, which he probably can get drafted, then he might as well just go. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really make sense for him to sit in college. If it was anybody else with the putting up that had the season that he had, I would say stay in college, and get your resume up. But for Bronny, I mean, if he wants to go, whatever, just go ahead.
I don't agree with that at all, Trip. He should stay in school. If he wants to transfer out of USC, that's fine. But he should stay in school. He's going to get drafted off a name. He's going to take up a roster spot that is unfair. And we talked about this so many times already. I know people are tired of talking about it, but the question was posed, so we got to get to it. He can barely get minutes on USC's team. How the hell can you justify even drafting him? Yeah. But yet there's going to be a team that's going to draft him because of the name. And there's going to be a team that will try to dangle that in the way of, hey, maybe Braun is going to come now that we get his son.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's very unfair because Bronny's game is not ready for the NBA. He's going to take up a spot for another young man who's probably a little more worthy. And we got to be fair, Trip, because I've had this criticism of Thanasis on Milwaukee's bench, where Thanasis to me is just eating up a roster spot that could be going to somebody who's far more skilled and far more worthy of that spot. But because that's Giannis's brother, he get the spot. Same thing's about to happen to Bronny James.
Well, you know what? And here's the thing, right? And this is why I'm not mad at it, because this ain't going to be the first time we've seen some nepotism play a part in it. You mentioned Thanasis, but we can go back to J.R. Smith getting Chris Smith a contract that he didn't deserve with the Knicks. When
J.R. but that was one season. Thanasis has been on that bench now for a few years. Thanasis has been on that bench for.
I don't think he should be on the roster spot, but I'm just saying we have seen this before where guys have helped their family members maintain a roster spot when they don't deserve it. Like I said, personally, I would like for Bronny to continue to develop his game at the collegiate level since he doesn't need the money right now. You know what I'm saying?
Bronny, I had to bring up the stats just to double check. He averaged 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, 2 assists on 36% shooting. That's no.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I said, but it is what it is. Shout out to Drunk. At least this is big.
Pause.
No pity. Bronny like 6'2.5".
Pause.
Yo, man.
Yeah, he didn't even put a comment there. He didn't even put a comment like.
Yeah, y'all gonna have to start putting no Diddy or something in the comments, man.
It's crazy.
It's this stuff, yo. Let me go to that. Okay, let me.
Shout out to Will Gordon. He said it was 99 that Rip won that with UConn, and with Khalid Al-Amin as the point guard.
Okay. Hoopballer Scoop. What y'all think? Danny Hurley wins title tonight and goes to Kentucky. I mean, it's crazy because I can't see you win the title and then you're gonna leave I mean, even though he's gonna lose a couple of players, but still, that's wild to win a chip and then just leave right after that. Um, and I think Kentucky, they already lost somebody because somebody entered the draft portal
Two.
already, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Well, Rob Dillingham, the point guard, is the point guard. Rob Dillingham is going in the draft. He's projected to be a top 3 pick. Two of their incoming recruits have already basically withdrew their name, so they could recommit to Kentucky based on who the head coach is. But it looks like they may be following Coach Cal down to Arkansas since they've decommitted. The same day the news broke, they didn't waste any time and decommitted or
Now,
uncommitted.
about star power. That's star power.
Yeah.
What's like when guys just you out? We out too. Dion got that kind of star power. Will, you said you got cooked by
Khalid Alameen in the AAU.
Oh man,
ain't no shame in that. Khalid was nice.
Listen,
Khalid was nice, bro.
See, Drunk said SEC low key the pinnacle of men's college ball. So on the surface, UConn is up with Kentucky, but SEC is running both sports right now. Yeah.
I mean, they could run both sports, but UConn is on the verge of going back to back.
Yeah. Let me see. John Calipari has 35 first rounders at his time at Kentucky. I mean, listen, man. Like they showed the picture today. Was it? He had
7 All-Stars.
AD, Boogie, John Wall. He had Devin Book. Book. He had. He had a lot of them ones, man. You can't knock the hustle. Yeah, I'm interested to see what he does at Arkansas, though.
They showed the picture. He was at this year's All-Star game. There were 7 current All-Stars that he coached.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Wasn't Khalid the chubby point guard?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. You are absolutely right.
It was Khalid at the point. Will, help me. I know Jake Voskuhl was the starting center on that team. I can't remember who else. They had 2 other guys on that team.
Let me go back. I know there's a couple of questions that we didn't get to. I'm gonna start transitioning to the NBA. Let me see. No, I just saw. Okay. Where we at with these NBA questions? I know I just seen a whole bunch of them. Okay, here we go. Okay, all right, got one right here. Here we go. Okay, NBA question. Top of the West is crazy for the top spot with the Nuggets, Thunder, and Wolves. As of now, Wolves have the tiebreaker over the Nuggets. Very competitive at the top of the Western Conference. It's literally going to come down to the last game of the season. The way if it continues the way it looks right now, because it's like they'll win together, or one of them will lose one night, but then the other one will lose the next night, and vice versa, and it like the cycle just keeps going on like that. So I think this race is actually going to come down to the finish, which I really love, because we're going to get great basketball, because teams are not going to be resting players, because you want that number one spot. You want to have home court throughout, or at least home court until you get to the conference finals. So I love it.
It's going to be an amazing finish, and it's going to be amazing to see how then the matchups play out, because not only is the top looking crazy, pause, but then you got Phoenix at 6, you got New Orleans at 7, Sacramento at 8. Obviously, Lakers, Golden State going to play in a play-in game, so it's very possible, whoever finishes with that number 1 seed is going to end up having to face a really good team, whether it's the Lakers, whether it's the Pelicans, whether it's the Warriors. So it's some good matchups there overall. But yeah, it's going to be a great finish at the end. Like you said, it's going to come down to the last game.
Yeah. Drunk says maybe I'm a hater. I just don't believe the Thunder and the Wolves can win a playoff series.
I think it's the matchup. It all depends who they match up against.
Yeah, that's why I agree with you. Said 1,000%, Eric, because the teams that are in the play-in tournament, I feel like can all beat OKC, can all beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's really Denver is the only team where it's like, all right, they're gonna be up there and they're probably gonna make it back to the NBA championship.
Yeah.
But everybody else, I mean, you don't want to play Steph Curry. and Klay Thompson in the playoffs. You don't want to play LeBron and AD in the playoffs. Or if it's Phoenix, what are you going to you got Kevin Durant and Devin Booker?
Right.
Like, you know what I
It's tough matchups. And remember, Phoenix right now has the tiebreaker for the 6th spot. They could very well fall into the playing game as well because them and the Pelicans have the same record. It's just they have the tiebreaker. So if they fall into the playing game, then that makes it even more dangerous if you're the 1 or 2 seed, where it's like, now I don't want to have to play them in the first round either.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, let me put up Thomas Demp's question because it's actually a question for Will. Hold on. He says, ask the Will guy, what's the power forward's name that was muscular, light brown? He was a major factor in the 99 title. Where did he go after UConn? Will, do you know his name?
I know Will had mentioned Kevin Freeman from that team. That was a good UConn team. They went on a really good run that year, and they upset Duke.
And Thomas, I see your other comment, but we're on timeout from speaking about that particular
we're not
team.
going.
So I can't even go in right now on the comment that you made because I'm still on timeout. I'm gonna tell y'all right now though, when the playoffs start, I'm going in. All right, I'm gonna let y'all rock until the playoffs start. But once the playoffs start, we talking about my guy. All right, that's
we
it.
going. Yeah, we leaving the Laker talk. Shout out to Drunk. I appreciate the comment, Drunk. I see that.
Okay. We throw the comment. Shout out. It was good to have you back, Drunk. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact. We always enjoy when you're part of the show.
All right, let me go back. Okay, here we go. On. Oh, here we go. Embiid been back a week or so. They've been winning, climbing out the plane. Maybe. I did want to talk to you about this, Eric. If the Philadelphia 76ers just so happen to have the 8th seed and play the Boston Celtics in the first round, what chance do you give them of upsetting the Celtics?
I would give them a really good chance. One, it's a division rival, so they know each other very well. 2, they have the advantage at coaching because Nick Nurse is a far superior coach to Joe Mazzulla. And I think Embiid really got a rest. Like, this is the most he's probably ever been rested going into the playoffs. Now, granted, you want him to be in the best game shape as possible, and that's the part that we got to wait and see if he can get enough games in, enough reps before the playoffs. But if you're telling me a rested Embiid with the way Maxey has been playing, with Nick Nurse kind of calling the shots, I think they give Boston a lot of trouble in that series. I would still pick Boston to win, but it would be a very tough series for Boston. It'd probably be a tougher series than they would like to play to start the playoffs.
Yeah. Let me put up anyone know if Towns is coming back for the playoffs? They say he's close, but there's no definite answer of when he's gonna return. But you know how that goes. You know, I mean, these teams now getting fined left and right because of the injury updates that they're not making in regards to the players. I know the Sixers got fined like 100,000 for Embiid, and I think the Knicks just got fined for Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah.
So listen, when I see him on the court, that's when I believe he's gonna be able to come back. Other than that, I can't really say because the way they be hiding information is just crazy.
Yeah, he I just double checked because I had heard some news that he was trying to get back before the end of the regular season. So that's still the rumor. They're gonna try to get him back before the regular season ends. I think he just had his first scrimmage with the team as well. He's another one though. You got to get him in game shape because he's missed more than a month. So you don't know what his endurance is looking like going into the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk a little bit of NFL. Because there was a big trade that went down. Buffalo Bills sent Stephon Diggs packing. He will now be a member of the Texans, where he will have a quarterback by the name of CJ Stroud, who was the offensive rookie of the year. But I want to talk about Josh Allen. What do you expect from Josh Allen this coming season?
He's going to struggle. And I don't think that listen, Diggs didn't play well the last 8 games of the season. He struggled. His overall numbers look better than what he did to end off the season, where he was only averaging about 40-something yards a game. He wasn't getting the same separation. Granted, coverages were rolling that way, and it opened things up, and it really opened up the running game for them. We saw the emergence of James Cook. But when you look at that receiver room, like Gabe Davis ain't there no more. Now Diggs is gone. it's a lot of uncertainty there at the wide receiver position. And I don't know if Josh Allen is skilled enough as a quarterback. He's very mobile. He makes things happen on the fly. He's probably at his best when he's moving around in the pocket. But now, without having that number one guy, that guy that you know can get separation, I think he's going to struggle. And it's going to be a tough year for Josh Allen. And I have a feeling that they're going to circle back and try to get a receiver next year. And if you're the Bills, this really comes down to mismanagement by the front office, because you could have just outright drafted a receiver, particularly Justin Jefferson, who was the draft pick you sent away to Minnesota for Diggs. Now you're sending Diggs away, for draft picks. They're probably going to target somebody in the draft as well, but nobody, I don't think, on that roster or in the draft would come in and immediately have the impact that Stephon Diggs was having there.
Yep. Bills want Allen to prove he Mahomes and can throw to anybody. And when he proved he wasn't Mahomes with everybody, yeah, I think that's what they thought was going to happen. But he wasn't Patrick Mahomes before they traded Stephon Diggs. So I don't know what would make y'all think that he was about to become that because you took away his weapons. And on even though Patrick Mahomes lost Tyreek Hill. Obviously Juju wasn't a number one, but he was at least number two. This year they didn't even have a number two wide receiver. There is a key piece of that offense that Buffalo does not have, and that's a brother by the name of Travis Kelce, who is the best tight end of all time. And then just to add on, you got Pacheco, who's a pretty good running back that they drafted a couple of seasons ago. So I don't know what the hell the Bills was thinking with this trade. I agree with
the biggest difference too is, like you said, Mahomes and Kansas City had already won a Super Bowl, and they have been to 2 Super Bowls with Tyreek. So, like redirecting the funds that Tyreek was going to get other areas, you can understand why. It's like, we got to still continue to remake this team, and which they did. They drafted a lot of young defensive players. They went and got Pacheco. They redid their offensive line. Buffalo's getting rid of their top 2 receivers and has made no other move. Not only did they get rid of their top 2 receivers, they got rid of both their starting safeties from last year as well. So it's almost like Buffalo is slashing money to, save on the cap, because they haven't made any significant upgrades anywhere else, and yet they've let 4 key players of that team go.
Exactly. And yes, Drunk, I'm glad that you put the no Diddy on the end of that comment, because that was crazy. I can't even read all of this question. Let's be clear, I'm not a Diggs fan, but Diggs
balls uncatchable.
Yeah. Listen, he's gonna miss having Stephon Diggs out there. Stephon Diggs was the reason that we started not looking at him at Josh Allen as an average quarterback. When he got there, Josh Allen had his best statistical season the following season after Stephon Diggs got there. He's gonna miss Stephon Diggs. That Buffalo Bills team is not gonna look the same as they did the past couple of years, and I'll still say they have a chance at winning the division, just because that division is all shaken up right now. Obviously, the Patriots are still in rebuild mode. We don't know what we're going to get from Miami week to week, and we have to actually see the Jets stay healthy in order for them to really contend. So they'll still have a chance at winning the division, but it ain't gonna be a pretty for Josh Allen this season.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough year for him. And on the flip side, as Will mentioned, Texans going to be tough, man. They add Joe Mixon. Obviously, you add Diggs. They already had 2 young emerging receivers there as well. And CJ Stroud is a pure passer. Josh Allen is just an athlete who plays quarterback. I'm sorry, that's just what he is. Super athletic. He doesn't make the best decisions as a quarterback. CJ Stroud is the opposite. CJ Stroud is a quarterback. He makes the plays from the pocket. And now you add another weapon there. Diggs won't have like the Pro Bowl numbers. It just won't happen, because there's going to be more balance to that offense now that you add Joe Mixon there. But Diggs' impact will be felt, because Nico Collins, Tank Dell, they're going to get a lot of one-on-one coverage. And you saw last year, they was able to get open downfield already. Now you add Diggs running around. It's going to be a lot of open space out there. Pause.
Will says, I'm probably biased because he a Terp, but Diggs is going to eat. Houston redid his deal, guaranteeing him 20 plus M's this season, and he's a free agent after this season. They're going to have a lot of fun in Texas playing football this season, and I think the Texans definitely win that division. And I don't even think it's going to be close because not only last year did you have the offensive rookie of the year, but you also had the defensive rookie of the year
Mm-hmm.
on the other side of the football with Will Anderson Jr. out of my Alabama. So I love it for the Texans, man. I think they're going to run the table this year and make a deep playoff run with that addition.
Yeah, they're gonna be tough.
Let me throw Junks. Yeah, Junk. We are definitely from the East Coast, and you got to work on that. Matter of fact, since we talking about that, and we saying Diddy right now, I got to link up with Big Gene this week. I got to shoot some stuff with Big Gene this week. He gonna give us another exclusive for me to bring back to the show. But if y'all have a specific question that y'all want me to ask Gene, I think we got probably like 5 minutes left. But just throw it in the comment, and I'll make sure I ask Gene this week. In addition to whatever else we're gonna chop it up about.
You know what question they got.
I,
You know, so the comment section about to get flooded. You know what questions they got.
yeah, I almost feel bad for Josh Allen, but this is a wide receiver stack draft. Maybe Bills know something we don't know. Well, I don't know. Maybe they do, but we know who's the wide receiver coming out of this draft, and they ain't gonna get him, and they're probably not gonna get Malik Neighbors either. And I forget the other young man, but they're
You got
probably not gonna get him either because they don't pick low enough in the draft order.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough for them to get one of the top three guys, which are Neighbors, which obviously Harrison Jr. and the kid out of Washington. Washington got a couple good receivers in the draft, but I think that's still going to be an area that they look to target, whether it's in that first or second round.
Listen, Trump, I don't want you going homeless betting on on stuff like that, man. Like, come on, Drunk, because we got to start a GoFundMe for you, brother. Don't put your last on Stephon Diggs having under 1,000 yards for the season, which it actually is possible just because there's.
I like that one. I'm gonna look up the odds now. Now that Drunk brought it up, I like that one.
But I'm just listen. But it's possible he could still get 1,000 yards even with Tank Dell and Nico Collins there. And I don't want you to be homeless, bro, because I ain't got a place for you to stay, so I can't help you out in that situation. All right.
I'm gonna try to get them odds before we get off the air.
Oh man, Gene's so hot
right now. This comment crazy right here. This was crazy right here, Drunk. I feel like this was very intentional. I feel like this was very intentional right there.
What are we doing here, man? Listen, everybody calling Gene right now. Gene about to drop his next book too. That's a little tidbit for y'all, but he about to drop his next book too. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that as well. Let me go back up here. Let me get back to Imani's comment because she wanted us to wait to the end of the show, and I was already heartbroken by this in the first damn place. But let me go to this question before we get ready to wrap up. Imani says save this for the end of the show. Okay, J. Cole responded to Kendrick with 7-minute drill. First of all, was the diss track weak or good as Kendrick's? Then hip hop heads are pissed. He put the song out and then apologized, saying he couldn't sleep for 2 days after putting it out. And rap beef. Has anyone ever heard of this? We from New York, so no, ain't nobody never heard of that.
It's never been done before.
You stand on business, and J. Cole is my guy. I will go to bat for J. Cole. I was going to bat for J. Cole the whole weekend up until that just happened. Right there. I got a text at 4 a.m, and I was just disgusted by that. I almost called Hove myself, like, yo, Hove, you got to talk to the young boy because we don't pop issue and apologize on this side of town. And just to be clear, I do understand. Because I try to give him the benefit of doubt in the situation. I get it. You feel like that's your man, and you just jumped because you listen to everybody. You put out a diss track, and nobody would have even been mad if you didn't say anything. People really just wanted Drake to put out a response to Kendrick. They didn't even really care about Cole because people already respect Cole's, his pen game. So nobody would have, anything. But you can't after you put it out, and I like the diss track. Matter of fact, that album is hard. If y'all haven't listened to that album, that whole album is tough. But now I can't even listen to it no more after he made that apology.
So the first part of it, I'll start actually. Was the diss track weak or as good as Kendrick's? Kendrick had the element of surprise. Nobody knew Kendrick was gonna drop the verse the way he did on Future and Metro Boomin's joint. So you had the element of surprise, and then of course you got the wow factor where everybody, now it's got the replay factor and everybody's listening to it to catch the little snippets and little disses in there. Cole's joint was solid. I thought it was solid. I thought it was a decent approach. I also thought that it was a true warning shot. I know people was like, oh, it ain't that. No, I thought it was a warning shot. I thought because he openly made it known, like, I really don't want to do this, but you forcing my hand. And then if it continues, then it goes wherever it goes. But hearing the apology, it really, Will Gordon and I always said this on Friday Night Lives, where we used to always be like, yo, I hate to sound like the old man yelling, get off my lawn. But that's exactly what I'm about to sound like right now, Trip. J. Cole dropping a diss track and then apologizing within 48 hours is the epitome of what's wrong with this current era of any competition, whether it's sport or music. Mm-hmm. Y'all so worried about being friends that y'all don't even want to compete with each other. For him to say, I haven't been able to sleep good for 2 days over a diss track? You telling me you were that distraught about making a song that I can't sleep for 2 days? Like, that to me is super whack. It's super corny. And I like J. Cole, but it's super duper corny. You cannot sit there and consistently remind or try to tell people I'm the best at this particular craft. And in the moment you're challenged, now you don't want to accept the challenge. Now you don't want to take on competition. And there's people who's trying to say, oh, it's cool, it's good. Nah, it ain't good. It ain't good for the sport of hip hop. It ain't good for competition in general. The same way we talk about it in basketball, how stars always want to link up and they never want to really test their mettle. They never want to see how great they can be on their own because they want to be side by side with somebody. It's the same thing with Cole. Don't talk to me about how great you are. And the moment you got challenged, now it's like, it ain't sitting right with my soul right now. I can't do this. I want to apologize. And another thing I want to say too, right? You sit there, anybody who's been in the studio, Trip, you've been in the studio with a lot of artists. The whole process of making a song takes a little bit, right? I'm going to hear the beat. I'm going to figure out what angle I want to take. I'm going to record this. We're going to go back in. We're going to layer the track, mix, master it, all those things, and then prepare to put it out. There was plenty of time for J. Cole to be like, nah, you know what? Don't put that out yet. Don't put that out there. I would have preferred that he not do anything.
If he was
than to do that and then apologize. Don't say anything, man. Don't say anything.
For the back and forth. That's what everybody wanted. Yeah. It was like, all right, you know what I'm saying? You caught a stray because really that, he was really going at Drake, but you caught a stray and you jumped in there and you stood on what you stood on. And then I want to hear what Kendrick got to say and I want to go back and forth. But now it's over for that.
My first reaction when I heard he apologized, I was like, that's whack. That shit is super whack. You should have never said nothing at all. And like I said, it's nothing about it was even personal. So for you to be like, oh, it didn't sit right with my soul. I could understand if you had disrespected his family, if you said something about his wife.
Yeah.
You kept it strictly lyrical. What about that didn't sit right with you?
Yeah. I think, I more so just because that's his boy, or somebody that he considers one of his boys. But other than that, you didn't
it's friendly competition.
You know what I'm saying? You didn't say that.
Right. It's friendly competition.
It wasn't no Vaseline. You didn't say I skated in your Jeep, left condoms on your baby seat. Then if you had said something like that and you came out 2 days later and apologized, I probably would have been like, you know what, you did kind of take it too far. All right, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let you have
but that's what I'm saying.
Disrespectful.
And what's even more like Cole was a grown up, played ball. You telling me so you never was on the court against one of your friends and crossed him up or dunked on him before? Did you apologize then? Oh, my bad. That's just in. The way I handled you on the court the other day just didn't sit right with me. Like, no, that's competition.
Yeah. It is what it is, man. I'm just disappointed. And as a J. Cole fan and always, pushing for him and giving him that respect out of the big three as the best lyrically out of the big three, that hurt my heart, man.
It's the epitome of what's wrong with the current era.
Yeah.
Everybody's so concerned about being politically correct and wanting to be friends that it's like the moment you even think that somebody might be offended by something, you say, oh, no, hold on, I didn't mean it that way. Nah, for what? Kendrick said what he said and it was tough. Now it's time for you to respond. That's the nature of the business. Mm-hmm. That's the nature of the business. I don't want to ever hear from J. Cole. And like I said, he's super dope, but I never want to hear him ever reference himself as one of the GOATs because none of the GOATs would have ever done that.
Yeah.
None of the GOATs would have ever done that. They would have just
As the GOAT on this album on the song with Cameron.
right. I that's it. I put the song out, and then we passed that up later on. And plenty of greats have had it that way. Nas and Jay passed it up later on. You know what I'm saying? If you look back, what Cam and Jim Jones were saying about Nas was super disrespectful.
Yeah.
Even though Cam wasn't on the level of Nas as a lyricist, he was super disrespectful. And then later on, we passed it up like, I might have went too far, but it is what it is. In that moment when it's wartime, it's wartime. It ain't about, oh, I can't sleep tonight, Trip.
Yeah.
God forbid another sports show talk about us. I'm gonna sleep just fine, and I'm gonna talk reckless.
Well,
I'm good. Like,
and if I say something, I'm standing on it. I ain't apologizing. I ain't taking a minute when I said it.
That's fine. We good.
Especially when I'm bombing on you and it's straight facts and no disrespect, then I'm definitely gonna stand on that.
It is what it is. And then we'll see you at Brick when we get in the award, and you not. It is what it is. And that's not a direct shot at anybody, Trip. That's just a fact.
Well, we definitely got plaques on the wall.
Yeah, that's a fact. We not,
recognize who y'all dealing with. But I'm just gonna post Will's last comment and then we're gonna get up out of here. Final thought: UConn wins tonight, and Hurley is Kentucky's coach by this week. Damn, that's mad fast. That's mad fast. We both picked UConn for the night, so you know what I mean. Anyway, so I'm not gonna go against the grain on that one. Eric, give us a final thought.
As always, super appreciate the supporters who rock with us every week. The comment section stays flooded. We truly love you guys, man. We appreciate it. And again, you guys make this so enjoyable to be on live with you guys and interactive in this way. What else I wanted to add in there? There was something else. Man, I forgot now. We got sidetracked talking about other stuff. But I can't remember now. I know what it was. Will, you might be right. I don't think Hurley leaves, but I expect UConn to win tonight. So I agree with you on UConn winning tonight. Drunk, the odds right now, I looked it up. Stephon Diggs, 1,000-yard season. Right now, they got him at -110. So you can get plus odds if you're fading that he's going to be under 1,000 yards. So you get it at good odds right now if you're willing to make the bet right now.
But don't go homeless based off of this bet, all right?
No. Listen, you got a little time to think about it. You might want to wait till after the draft and then like kind of settle down and see, what direction the Texans go with their draft picks before you make that assessment. Because we talking a lot of ish now, and they might trade one of them young receivers, and then they'd be like, oh, now Diggs is, a more focal point of that offense.
Facts. I'm gonna take my final thought. I'm just gonna run through a couple of things on the rundown that we didn't get to. We do have to shout out a couple of things. Big shout out to the Baltimore Orioles and the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes.
They donated $10 million to the bridge collapse. So that was big for them. I'm very happy about that. Baltimore is becoming my third home now. The DC Baltimore area is becoming my third home. So big shout out to both of those franchises for that. Shout out to my man. I gotta salute my guy Cody Rhodes. Stopped that Roman Reigns streak at WrestleMania 40. Got the win last night. WrestleMania ended the way it was supposed to. It took me back to my childhood. John Cena came out. He got beat down. The Rock came out, and then last, the Undertaker came out and choke slammed the Rock to the depths of HE double hockey sticks. I was a very happy camper last night watching WrestleMania. I want to shout out to R-Truth because he got his first win at WrestleMania, and I think it's been like 30 years, some wild crazy number like that when he made his debut, and he finally got his first win at WrestleMania. Also, shout out to Lane Johnson and Jake Kelsey, who at WrestleMania they interfered in that Rey Mysterio match versus his son. So big shout out to those two guys. Hank Aaron statue is going to be unveiled.
Yes,
Cooperstown this year. That's a big deal. We might need to do something with that. But big shout out to Hank Aaron. Man, one of the greatest to ever play the game of baseball. Eric, your Mets, they finally starting to get warm. 3 out of their last 4 big wins. Yankees just won again tonight. So I believe they have sole possession of the best record in baseball right now. Let's keep it up, fellas. With that being said,
Juan Soto's been amazing.
Yes, he
Juan
has.
Soto, and it just came through as well. Isaiah Thomas signed with the Suns for the remainder of the year. So
Nice.
for
That's
whatever
for
it's
sure.
worth. Yep.
Yeah, I don't, he missed the Brinks truck, but at least he's back playing with us right now. Hold on, he throw trucks last comment up here. I made the bet as soon as the
Hey, we're gonna keep no. Now that you put it out there, we're gonna keep track of it all year. So we're gonna create the Stephon Diggs
well,
yards tracker and see what it's looking like throughout the year. You never know. Maybe he gets hurt for an extended period of time and then it becomes an easy win.
facts. Make sure you guys are following us on all our social media: Instagram, Twitter at Real Fan Talk, Facebook.com/Real Fans Real Talk, YouTube.com/ For the Fans Productions. And don't worry if you're not in New York City and you can't watch us on Verizon 43 from 8 to 9 p.m. You can still watch us from anywhere in the world at realfansrealtalk.com. Just click that red button on the homepage and you can watch from wherever you are. Also, make sure that you are following both the Real Fans Real Talk and the Sanchez Show podcast, two of the best sports podcasts on the planet. And we are streaming on all major platforms. With that being said, for myself, Trip Young, and my brother, my co-host, Eric Sanchez, aka Legend in Two Games, we up out of here. Peace.
Enjoy the game tonight, guys.
Sir, let's go UConn.